My name's Ken Banks. I'm the founder of QAngea.net and the creator of Frontline SMS. For the last 10 years, I've been trying to figure out how we use mobile technology, mostly in developing countries, to help mostly grassroots non-profits better deliver healthcare, agricultural advice, collect human rights abuses, anything in fact that they're doing which could be improved or scaled using mobile technology. I've been working in development for 20 years, started by helping build a school in Africa in 1993. So pretty much fuse my passion for development with technology and a degree in social anthropology. So I kind of have a dream job, I guess. In 1993, when I first took an interest in international development, I'd already been working in the technology industry for a few years, but there was nothing somebody with a technology background could really do in developing countries. There was no internet in 1993, at least not one that was being used by anyone in particular. Mobile phones were certainly not really around anywhere either. So other than go to a hospital somewhere and install a network, which probably wouldn't be used, there really wasn't much that you could do. And at that point, I just spent more time trying to understand development. I figured that I would one day do some technology work, but the technology hadn't quite caught up. With that, I got my lucky break in 2003 when I was asked to work on a conservation project, which was trying to figure out how mobile phones could be used to help conservationists in the field, mostly Africa, better do their work. And mobile phones were starting to appear. This is now 10 years ago, but mobile phones were starting to appear. Nobody quite knew how relevant and useful they were going to be, but they were certainly starting to appear. And my job was really to go out into the field and try to figure out how we could make an appropriate sort of social, environmental use of these technologies. People were starting to get very rich at that point, and a lot of people weren't really thinking socially or environmentally about how we could build low-cost, meaningful, appropriate tools that anyone could use to do whatever social mission that they had. And that's really how I got started. And in 2005, I wrote some software called Frontline SMS, which is a two-way text messaging platform. And it's aimed at very low-tech grassroots users who may not have much money or technology or tech experience, works off cheap laptops, doesn't require training, it's free. And since I launched that in 2005, today it's being used in, I think, about 145 countries, around about 50,000 downloads from organizations, helping in about 20 different sectors of development, from health, agriculture, human rights, election monitoring, government transparency, education, conservation, and helping 20 to 30 million people according to the surveys that we most recently did. And I actually stepped back from that organization last year to let a new team take it on to the next level. So I think mobile technology it's fascinating, it's exciting, it's still fascinating and exciting even after 10 years, because we still haven't yet fulfilled the true potential. And I just feel very lucky that I managed to start doing that work right at the very beginning, and I've managed to see it grow as a discipline. Well, the idea for Frontline SMS, which consumed sort of 8 years of my life pretty much, it came from, I think, first of all, being in the field a lot. I didn't have a sort of aha moment while I was walking through an African village somewhere, or I didn't spend a lot of time with notepads and scribbling down things and trying to strategize in my mind. I was actually watching Match of the Day at home in Cambridge, drinking beer on a Saturday night, when actually the idea for the software came to me. So I just jotted a few things down. And I think probably the reason the idea came was, I don't know why I was thinking about text messaging at the time, probably a very boring game of football, I guess. But I'd spent a lot of time in the field, and I was starting to see more and more technologies coming out which were just too difficult or expensive for most of the people that I'd been out to help to use. And there seemed to be an opportunity there to fill a gap. And because there's no money in it, people just weren't interested in fulfilling it. And ironically, the place where there was least money was the place where there was the greatest opportunity for social change. So I just sort of determinedly went out to build this thing. I'd done software development in the past, so I was qualified to write the system, and I raised a very small amount of money, wrote it in 5 weeks, and threw it out to the world in October 2005. So the idea really came very randomly, but I think it was based on spending a lot of time in the field working with grassroots non-profits who were tackling all sorts of problems and understanding what life was like for them, really. When Frontline SMS was developed in 2005, there was nothing actually like that at the time. And that's why I wrote it. I'd identified a need for a very simple tool to work in rural areas of developing countries without the internet, without electricity, without technical training, all the things that were lacking. And I looked and I couldn't find anything, and that's why I wrote it. So at that particular moment in time, there was nothing to copy because it didn't exist. I mean, today there's now a whole range of text messaging platforms, which you could say perhaps did copy Frontline SMS to some extent, but Frontline SMS is still, I think, way ahead, and it's certainly way ahead in terms of how long it's been around and how it's being used. So I don't actually think it's necessarily a problem to do that. I think it's bad to reinvent wheels for the sake of reinventing wheels. If somebody can develop something based on another idea and improve it, then I think that's absolutely fine. The problem with patents and copywriting and protecting is that you can actually stifle innovation. If someone can do a better job than me, then I'm quite happy for them to do it. And I think copying in general, it's a double-edged sword. Google didn't invent search engines. You know, when Google came out, there were already search engines. They just did it in a totally different way and figured out how to monetize it in a very, very clever way. So, you know, Yahoo was around much longer. Nobody's really necessarily saying that Google copied Yahoo and it's very, very lame. Google just did an amazingly good job. So if people take a previously, an existing idea or tool or concept and make it better, and particularly for social good, I don't think we should be competing. You know, if someone else's tool can help twice as many people as mine, why should I stop them building it? Because we're all trying to help people. I should be encouraging people to do that. So over the last few years, I think it's clear that technology has a huge, potentially positive role to play in encouraging and fostering positive social change around the world. It's very clear through the internet and the movements that that's inspired, through mobile phones and how people are now using social media to mobilize in ways they never would have previously done. So technology is an enabler for all these things. It won't on its own solve them, but it enables a lot more to happen. We're now connected in ways that we never were previously connected. So I think organizations and founders of organizations who develop technologies which have very strong potential to be used to contribute to social movements and environmental movements and social change should be encouraged to do so, because at the end of the day, we're all on the planet together and we should all be working together. And in many places, actually, people are struggling for tools and resources which make their lives a lot easier. People who are fighting for human rights, fighting for government transparency, in many cases fighting very, very difficult causes, need all the help that they can get. And it would be crazy to have a tool out there which can potentially make their lives easier, increase the reach and scale of the work they're doing, and not provide it to them. So for me, I think a founder of an organization that actually has that kind of technology should go out of their way to an extent, or at least join or try to team up with the kind of organizations that may need it and try to figure out how it might be tweaked or adapted to make it more useful.